Hey everyone, it's Lisa from the blog Farmhouse on Boone.com, and today I'm going to be sharing some spring mealtime inspiration with 5 healthy family meal ideas. It has been super cold here, so I'm trying to get into the spring mood lately, but we just had snow recently and I'm still swapping between soups and salads, and we're in that transition between the warm and the cold, and so that is what these meal ideas are for. I want to say thank you to today's video sponsor, Thrive Market. I share them on here in a lot of my meal inspiration videos because it's where I like getting so many of my ingredients. Dried goods like fruit and beans and rice, and some pantry staples like organic canned tomatoes and maple syrup, and they have the most amazing sprouted popcorn. We both feel, Luke and I, that this certain particular popcorn has less of the kernel in it, so it's just our favorite. And so usually whenever I order tons of them. Oils, vinegars, spices, supplements. These are all things that I love to order from Thrive Market. Now Thrive Market has 2 membership options. You can either do monthly to find out if it's for you, if there are items that you can get there a lot cheaper. Personally, I love the Thrive Market in-house brand. It's kind of like getting the store brand, less expensive. They have all of your staples. And I've been a happy member for many years before they even started sponsoring this channel. They also have a yearly option, which is what I do. You can pay up front and save a little bit of money that way. They have members only pricing, which members save an average of $32 on every order. They also have home and beauty products. You can search by your dietary type. So if you have a certain restriction like dietary, gluten-free, like dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan, you can search the grocery options that only include that. Thrive Market is offering first-time customers 25% off their first order plus a free gift. You can use the link down in the description below, which is thrivemarket.com/farmhouse on Boone. Right, the first idea for this video is orange chicken. This is something that I've never really made in my home, but it came together through a few different things. One, I saw a friend of mine on Instagram, Andrea from Pine and Prospect Home. She's also here on YouTube. She shared her making an orange chicken in her stories, and she said, I just add a little bit of orange juice, coconut aminos, maple syrup, and vinegar. And I saw that, I screenshotted it and saved it because I was like, that sounds really good. And then I actually went out to dinner the other night with a few of my sisters, and we went to an Asian restaurant and they had orange chicken and it was fried and it was so good. So I kind of combined the 2 ideas. I cut some chicken into 1-inch-ish cubes. I didn't really obviously measure. And I breaded them by dipping them in some egg that I just whipped up with a fork, and then into einkorn flour mixed with salt. I love whenever I make anything fried to use einkorn flour because it isn't fermented, so it's a healthier grain to use because it's ancient. I talk more about that in other videos here on this channel, but it's a definitely healthier flour to use, especially if you're gluten sensitive or things like that. You can't have it if you're gluten free, but if you're sensitive, some people can tolerate einkorn. So I fried that in some coconut oil. I cooked up some rice, and then I made the sauce with fresh orange juice, fresh orange zest, maple syrup, vinegar, a little salt and pepper, and some coconut aminos, which is just like soy sauce, but without the soy. It's a lot healthier. And oh my word, it was so good. Now I went to my fridge because I wanted to serve it with some shredded carrots and steamed broccoli. That was my plan, but as you know, I don't meal plan, and I didn't have those, which I normally always have those. So now it's obviously on my next shopping list, but those are staples that I always keep, and clearly I ran out of them. So that would have made it a little bit better. I did bring in some green onions from the garden and added those to the top. So it did add a little bit of freshness. I do think this meal would be a lot more delicious if you added in some lightly cooked shredded carrots and then some steamed broccoli. That just make it well-rounded and a little bit more delicious. The next day, I made some sourdough bread, as I like to do. I did my no-knead recipe, and I made some burgers to go on that. Burgers are great, obviously all year, but especially whenever you can start to get the grill out. That's why it's a good spring and summer meal. Also, sourdough bread is great to keep on hand all summer long, because when you're in and out of the kitchen, if you're doing a lot of gardening or just playing outside enjoying the weather, whenever you have a loaf of sourdough bread, you can easily throw together any meal by making it into a sandwich. And so that is why I like to always have some sourdough bread. And for this particular meal, it's a really great way to make burgers. Now, I do like to make the sourdough burger buns, but I'm in more of a habit of the sourdough bread, and so a lot of times I'll just currently fall back on using that for the buns. I served this with purple sauerkraut. Now, I have a new favorite way to make sauerkraut, and my sister's been telling me this forever, and I just kind of like, I'm sure it's not that big of a deal. But if you cut it with a knife as opposed to using a food processor, you get a more crispy result, and it's just so much better. I didn't really believe her that it was that much better, but it truly is. And so last time I made sauerkraut, I didn't have that many cabbages, so I was making a small batch, so I just cut it and I left it a little bit thicker than the food processor does. I added caraway seeds, and then I also topped it off with a bit of salt water. And this is my favorite sauerkraut yet. We're almost through it, so I need to do it again because I have to wait like 5 days to a week or whatever. But it is so much better. And then I also serve this with my crispy potatoes. Now, a lot of times if I'm making enough potatoes for my whole family, I will get 2 skillets going, because when you overcrowd the potatoes, they don't get very crispy. So I will usually make them in 2 separate skillets and then combine them to serve on the table. The burgers on sourdough bread, I will put them in the oven on a baking sheet to melt the cheese. It just holds everything together a little bit better, because it can get a little bit messy with the sourdough bread, but it's really delicious. The third idea is a whole chicken. Whole chickens are always a good option all year round. I like them because they're easy. They're about as easy as throwing in a frozen pizza, only you end up with a much healthier result. You can flavor them with all of the herbs that the season is offering, and you almost always get leftovers, which are perfect for other meals throughout the week, like chicken salad or throwing them on a salad or making tacos. There's just so many things you can do with leftover chicken. For this particular meal, I added a whole bunch of garlic and lemon and lots of salt, and it tasted so delicious. It made a nice crispy skin, and then it had that citrusy flavor. And then for the leftovers, I just took everything once the chicken was cool off the bone, put it down in those juices, and it gave everything that nice lemon garlic flavor for leftovers for another meal. I also served this with some new potatoes with some herbes de Provence and oil, and just baked them in with the chicken. So it's just like a really easy meal that you can throw in the oven and then just enjoy later. With that chicken, I put the bones, after I picked everything clean, into the Instant Pot to make some bone broth for another meal. So the next meal on this list is cheeseburger soup. Now, we happened to have a really cold day on the day that I made this. We had snow, which was ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen snow this late in Missouri. And so we went back to the soups, which I really love eating soups all year round to give us the benefits of bone broth, but they definitely are harder to tolerate in the middle of summer, I must admit. So any excuse and chance that we can get, any day that it just gets a little bit chilly, even in the summer, I like to still use soups, and spring is a great time for that. For this particular meal, I just made a really simple cheeseburger soup. First, I sauteed up some potatoes and celery and onions and garlic and butter. And then in a separate skillet, I browned some beef with garlic and salt, and then I strained off some of the bone broth that I made, added the meat to the vegetables, let it simmer a bit, and then I just served it with cheese and sour cream and avocado and some jalapenos just for me and Luke. We love serving almost any meal with jalapenos for us, and avocados for everyone else as well, because they just are so filling and they add a nutritional benefit, of course. Okay, the final spring meal idea. This is a favorite of ours, especially in the spring whenever spring greens are more easily available. Even when you get them from the grocery store, they're just fresher and a little bit better because they're more in season. A salad bar is one of those meals you can pull out even whenever you didn't have that much time in the kitchen. I like to do hard-boiled eggs and some leftover meat if you have it. We did chicken in this instance, diced red onion, shredded cheese. For this time, I also made some homemade croutons. We had about a half a loaf of my 2 loaves of sourdough bread from earlier in the week, and so I just cut it up into about 1-inch-ish cubes, added some olive oil, salt, and some more herbs de Provence. I use that stuff for everything, and then just toasted it in the oven. And they were so good. I'm kind of now like, okay, I always need to have a little bit of leftover sourdough bread for this application because it really makes the salad so much more delicious. We also add sauerkraut to the salad. It gives it a little bit of a crisp and a little bit of a sour taste. Really delicious. Just for the salad bar idea, pull out whatever you have. A nice homemade dressing like homemade honey mustard is one of my absolute favorites. I didn't make that today for this meal, but to make that, I make my homemade mayo, which is super simple. Add a little bit of mustard and honey, stir it all together. Super easy, super good. Another thing is homemade ranch, which is what I did today. I combined some raw milk and sour cream and mayo and some herbs and lemon juice and salt. You can also add some kefir or yogurt. Just that dairy component with some herbs and salt makes it delicious. I went in with the immersion blender just to make everything nice and incorporated, and it was so delicious on our salad bar dinner. So that's always a great meal, and you can just pull whatever you have out. All right, well, I hope that you enjoyed this video and got some springtime meal inspiration. If you're feeling in a rut with what you're cooking in your home, try some of these ideas out. They're all so flexible. Add what vegetables you have to the orange chicken. Add whatever vegetables, herbs, onions, garlic, whatever you have to the soup, and whatever you have to the salad. And if you have fresh peppers from the garden or tomatoes, which obviously is so much later from now, but add that to the salad. Very flexible ideas that you can use all through these warmer months that are coming. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure if you have not yet tried Thrive Market to visit the link in the description box below to get 25% off your first order and a free gift. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you aren't yet following along, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I make 2 new videos every week on food from scratch, natural living, and a handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse.